Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Orange Pill Podcast. My name is Graham Elwood. We are broadcasting from the beautiful Orange Pill Studios in beautiful downtown San Salvador. We have an amazing show for you today. One of the things we want to do on this show is bring people working in the Bitcoin space here in El Salvador, and which will help, because I know some of the audience, many of you are new to Bitcoin. Many of you are very knowledgeable, but as the price just cracked 67,000 today. It is now at 67,300 some, as we just checked CoinDesk earlier before the show started. I want to bring a lot of people on the show to explain all of the cool different things that people can be doing and all the work that's being done here, specifically in El Salvador. And hopefully, those of you who are new to the space will be like, oh, wow, this is cool. Because I know a lot of you, the people that are really knowledgeable, you know, you get it, you're excited, you know, the halving's coming, you're like, man, we're going to break the all-time high maybe during this broadcast, who knows. Those of you who are kind of new to the space are like, wow, what's going on? What's a halving? What's a wallet? Blah, blah, blah. So today we're going to get into like what wallets are and what the importance of them and the significance of them are. And we're going to do that with our guest, who runs the Bitcoin hardware store in El Zonte, and he is Ronnie. Ronnie, welcome to our show.
Thanks for having me, Graham. I really appreciate it.
It's great having you on the show. We met. I mean, this is the Bitcoin community. So I met Sandy Waves when I first came down here in June and started to meet Bitcoiners, and so when I knew I was going to come down for several months, I'm like, I need to rent a car. And that's how we met. And I tell people I'm renting my car with Bitcoin, which is pretty awesome. And as we, we're talking, and you told me about the Bitcoin hardware store, which I was at a couple of weeks ago. Really cool. And you're going to sell hardware wallets. But for the audience, before we get into what the story is and what the wallets are, I always want to know everybody's orange pill journey. Because we all have, very few people just like, oh, I learned about Bitcoin and that was it. I got it. I bought it. You know, there's some sort of superhero type origin story. You know what I mean? Like you were bitten by a spider, you saw your parents murdered or something. Like there's always some Batman type story involved in that. So tell us everything, because you're Salvadorian, you were living in Canada, now you're down here. Give us your whole journey.
Oh, thanks for having me, Graham. I really appreciate it. So my journey, like you said, is really the origin story, the orange pill story for me. I don't even know where to actually start it from. But I was telling you earlier, I have a bit of a financial background. That's where I went to school. Salvadorian Canadian. So my family originated here from El Salvador. They left during the war, which is a very typical story. And, people coming back now. So I was born in Toronto, went to school in Toronto, didn't really know what I wanted to do, and just got involved in business, finance, accounting, kind of learning how to run a business. And so the people around me, the people closest to me, were all in that type of industry. That was my network. So I was exposed to what we call the financial market at a very early age. And even at that stage of my life, I always questioned, things like inflation, things just like monetary network. I would ask questions, and the answer to it was always from, my professors was always, that's just the way it is. Why is inflation at 2%? That's just the way it is. And so, I wanted a job, so I just took it for what it was and ran with it. Time goes by. I start visiting El Salvador a little bit more as I got into my young adult life, because there was a really long, it was about 15 years where I didn't come to El Salvador. It was known as being a dangerous place. My family definitely would tell me about the things that were happening here. I would see it. My family would watch Salvador news on the daily. And
you still you had family down here?
I had family. Most of my family lives down here. The only ones still in Toronto is my immediate family,
So then during this process, I mean, and it's good you're telling this, because I want the audience to understand, like, this is a very common story of like people in the 80s. So for those who aren't familiar, in the 80s, from 1980 to 1992, there was the Civil War that, of course, the United States government was helping. That's what America does, helps create wars and chaos. And so a lot of Salvadorians left to the United States and Canada and elsewhere.
Yeah.
And everybody still had family down here. So not only were you guys watching the news, but I would imagine you're then speaking to family members about what's happening. And then when the Civil War ended in roughly 92, that's then when the gang violence basically took over. So it's been 4 decades. Nonstop.
Yeah.
And so you were hearing all of these horrifying stories firsthand pretty much, right?
Yeah. I was hearing them. I was seeing them when I started coming to visit again in 2014. I saw some of that stuff. You know, my father, I remember one story, my father going to the supermarket and him getting pretty much like assaulted, and coming back home beat up. And I was just like, what happened? And my father at the time, I think he was like late 50s. And so that was common. I remember as a kid seeing people walking around with machetes. That was common. But
wow.
Yeah. That's, you know, I have these like flashbacks, I guess you could say. And it was a small sample size, but it was enough for me to have that imprinted in the back of my head. Yeah.
Move the mic a little closer there.
So that was imprinted into me. But then learning about how the finance system works, when I heard about Bitcoin, it was, I'd say 2016, 2017 was the very first time just being in that network of friends who would talk about finances, you know, trying to up our life, better our life. And I was like, okay, this sounds pretty cool. A decentralized, a monetary network that you can transact with anywhere in the world. And some of the properties about Bitcoin really, going back to thinking of El Salvador, I was like, I remember in 2001 when we dollarized, I remember how we went from the colon to the dollar. And so...
It was 2001 or 2000?
2001.
Wow.
I believe 2001.
Okay.
And I remember even before then having Canadian dollars and having to come here, exchange your Canadian dollars to US dollars and then your US dollars to colones. So you would have to take two steps. So as I'm learning about Bitcoin, as I'm just questioning the system in general, I started thinking, okay, you know what? This would be in the back of my head, I was like, this would be a great place where Bitcoin, it takes away the intermediary. So we fast forward to, let's say, 2017, 2018, I see the bull run and then I see a crash. And at that point, for me, it's just a monetary tool. It's not what I see it as today. It's just a way to make money.
But because you had a finance background and were around finance people, you kind of understood it maybe quicker than...
I say that that's actually what made me not understand it quicker, because I was so into that fiat mindset. I remember asking myself in 2016, 2017, Bitcoin has no cash flow, Bitcoin has no dividends. Why would I, that was what was keeping me from probably even going deeper down the rabbit hole, because it wasn't that traditional finance system. So I'd say, from my personal opinion, that's what kept me probably from getting in earlier than I did. And
which kind of, I mean, it tracks in the sense that, like, you see a lot of these traditional finance people, a lot of them talking heads on CNBC or whatever, even today.
Of course.
But especially back then, we're like, it's a Ponzi, whatever, all saying it's no good because it just butts up against your traditional finance knowledge.
Correct. You're throwing all this, you pay $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 to go to school to learn these things, which is the traditional system, the legacy system, let's call it. And so you're taught all these different equations and ratios, and then Bitcoin comes and destroys every single one of them. So that's why I say that it's probably what pushed me back. But my thing has always been just questioning, knowing that I don't know everything. So it got me just to question, what Bitcoin was. And then obviously seeing the bull run going up, I got excited, seeing it go down. But by the time the bear, 2017, 2018, when I saw the price go down again, I'd already been involved in the financial markets for a little bit, probably 5 years in that time. And so I knew this is just a cycle, so I didn't study it. I just held it. It was just there. Mm-hmm. I knew I'd bought it, and I was like, you know what? I'll wait for the next cycle to see how it does. And then I vividly remember, because me and one of my really good friends from Toronto, someone that I grew up with, when 2019's coming around, the end of the year, and we were both just looking at Bitcoin every day, just like move up, move up, move up. So I start panic buying again. I'm like, okay, this is it. This is the moment where Bitcoin hits $1 million. Again, not really understanding the technical aspect, strictly just monetary. Mm-hmm. 2019, and then obviously 2020. We know what happened in 2020. And that was the moment where I would say a lot changed for me, because I had seen Bitcoin and I knew I wanted to come back to El Salvador to spend more time. From 2014 to 2019, I had come back to visit my family. I really enjoyed, even though it wasn't safe, I really enjoyed the country. I enjoyed the culture. I enjoyed how warm people were, how inviting people were, the music, the food, having family that's close to me, having them close to me again. That was what brought me back to El Salvador. And so 2020, the world changes. And my opinion was, well, I'm not having a great time here in Toronto. It's really cold, not just the weather, but the people. So I'm going to go check out. And because of the financial privilege that I had and the knowledge and the history of investing in tools, I had built myself a nice little nest egg where, okay, I could go away for a little while and not have to worry and explore the world a little bit more and quit my corporate America job and focus on, I thought the world was going to end in 2020. So yeah. Why not just go away and really do what I wanted to do, which at that point was be here in Central America, experience the culture, and do something different. So I remember as soon as I told my closest friends, like, listen, I think I'm leaving. I've put my notice in at my job. I'm out of here. And one of my friends sends me this YouTube video of Bitcoin in El Zante. And I see a video of Roman Chimbera paying with Bitcoin in El Zante. And I was like, wait, what's this? People are actually using it in El Salvador, of all places. I'm going there now. So first thing I did was I'm going to El Zante. I'd already been to El Zante before, thanks to my family members. They showed me around to El Tunco, showed me around to El Zante, some of the beautiful beaches. And I really liked the culture and the expat community that I found in El Zante. It was great, a lot of like-minded people.
The first time you were in El Zante, had the Bitcoin circular economy started?
Mm-mm. No, first time I was here, it was just a surf town.
Right.
It was just surfers. And the funny thing I say about the surfers and that culture is I think they're already Bitcoiners. They just don't know it yet.
Yeah. They've
been doing this for years, escaping, going to go surf and that lifestyle. You're a surfer, right? Mm-hmm. So I really was attracted to that lifestyle, that culture of chivo, buena onda, and just relaxing and really enjoying the water, the nature. And so I was coming back to El Zante, and then I saw the Bitcoin thing. And so after that price run up and back down again, I was like, okay, cool. This is what, when I first heard about Bitcoin and what it could do, I pictured it in El Salvador, because again, coming from Canada to US dollars to colones, it fixes all that, right? And my family was always doing transactions back and forth. My mom and my dad would send money back to El Salvador because El Salvador is one of their big GDP is remittances. Yeah. And so I saw that in my family. And
to add this to the audience should understand that there's roughly 3 million Salvadorians living in other countries because of the reasons your family left with the civil war and the gang violence. So that, like you say, for people to understand, roughly 3 million people are sending money back into this country. That's a huge cash flow, and enter Bitcoin.
Correct. So when I see that Bitcoin is this monetary value that allows you to send final settlement from one place to the next at low cost, the first thing I thought about was my mom could save so much money not having to use Western Union, not having to use the traditional systems, because I know in the back of my mind, all they're doing is pressing a button so that it goes from one account to the next. And they're charging large fees. And so I get here, I see what's happening in I think it was 2021 by the time I actually landed. It was March 3rd. So it's just over 3 years now. It was March 3rd, 2021 when I finally landed. And I wanted to see what this whole Bitcoin thing was. And I see places accepting Bitcoin. I didn't even know what Lightning was at the time. So I just know Bitcoin layer 1, final settlements. Okay, this is cool. I really want to explore a little bit more of this. And I'm just going to be, just hanging back, doing some day trading or swing trading, whatever, because that was my background. And I land in El Zante. I see what's happening, and it just clicks for me. I'm like, this makes sense. But me being me, and also maybe a little bit of an ego, and the pessimistic in me. I'm always trying to find, well, what could go wrong? What could go wrong? And so I'm asking questions. I'm looking at it from maybe a little bit of a pessimistic point of view, and still the traditional finance system in the back of my head. But the great thing is I'm meeting fantastic people along the way, people who, the originators of the Bitcoin Beach project here in El Salvador, people who were really trying to make a change, hearing about Max and Stacy. And I'm starting to listen now. And I'm really putting my guard down and I want to listen. And I'm focusing more on listening. And I think that's the point where, okay, I got rid of absolutely everything that wasn't Bitcoin related. And I started focusing 100% on learning about Bitcoin because I'm seeing it in front of my eyes. I'm seeing how it's changing people's lives. And I'm seeing this is the heart of people's bank accounts in Canada getting shut down for helping out the trucker convoy. I'm seeing, bank runs. I'm seeing this is in the heart of everything. And I'm in Alzante, kind of in my own little bubble, learning about Bitcoin. And so for me, it was kind of just a flip of a switch. I remember just getting rid of absolutely everything and focusing now 100% on Bitcoin.
Wow.
So
I think and we should, to touch on this, I think it's important when people see the circular economy, specifically Bitcoin Beach, which is sort of the birthplace of the Bitcoin circular economy.
Yeah.
I know there's other bubbles around the world, but they're the ones who really understood that it's not just buy Bitcoin and hold it, but if I spend it in your shop and you spend it at the next shop, that the circular economy is like, because I think, especially when you come from the first world, I've talked to many first world friends, and they see, even those that understand, they see Bitcoin as an asset class. It's a thing like a stock or a bond or real estate, but they're like, how are we gonna? And when you see it, you have to be there and see it. And you see the woman at the pupuseria taking Bitcoin, and then you rent your surfboard and you're like, oh, it really connects.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, I have this example and it was real. I remember being here, I think it was 2017, and wanting to buy a coconut. I had Canadian cash on me. I had no American dollars on me, and I had a credit card. And at the time, obviously, before with inflation, now a coconut costs $2 or $3 on the beach. So back then, it was a 50-cent coconut. No vendor is going to take credit card for a 50-cent coconut. It's going to cost the vendor more to accept that payment than it is for than the money she's going to make from it, or he or her. So I strictly remember being like, man, I cannot support this person. Right. I cannot help them out because my Canadian dollars is not going to do anything. She's not going to accept it. There's nowhere that this person can use it to get value back from it. So it's not that acceptable. Acceptability is one of the things about currency. What makes it so valuable? It needs to be acceptable worldwide. The U.S. dollar being the world's reserve currency is the only one they're going to take everywhere. I mean, right now, not everywhere anymore, but most places. And so that's the example where I couldn't support this person's business, even though I wanted to. I wanted that coconut. I was thirsty and wasn't able to. And then fast forward 3 years, this is 2017. So fast forward 5 years later, and I'm in that same scenario. I'm sitting at the corner of El Zonte where Esencia Nativa meets the ocean. And I'm just sitting there, and somebody's selling this Salvadoran fruit called ananona, and I tried it, and it was an amazing fruit. So now I want some. And I asked the person, listen, I don't have any dollars on me. All I have is Bitcoin. I'm trying out this Blink Bitcoin thing. I'm trying out what layer 2 is. Can you sell me one? And he's like, no, I don't really take Bitcoin. I'm like, how much is it? He's like, $1. I'm like, I'll give you 2. He's like, nah, I don't know how to use it. I'll give you 4. And he's like, all right. Opens up his app, opens up his Chivo. I give him $4 for something that he charged $1 for because I wanted it. And I wanted to support him too. And I wanted him to understand, listen, this is what the open market is. Right. This is how it works. You take what people will give you. So I buy the anona, I eat it. This is fantastic. I go back to him. I'm like, can I buy another one? And he kind of, he hesitated again. And I'm like, what'd you do with the $4? He's like, I already changed it to fiat. I was like, that was quick. I ate it in like 5 minutes. And well, did you see how easy it was? He's like, yeah, someone took it from me. I'm like, all right, cool. I'll give you $4 again if you take my Bitcoin. And he took it. Now I don't know what he did with that Bitcoin now, because I think the price of Bitcoin at the time was 2022. I don't know, maybe like 40,000. So he'd be up again. But that was the moment where for me it made sense, because I could get what I needed. That person wasn't getting cut, there's
Right.
no visa fee, there's no conversion fee. And this person was able to accept, and I was able to give them what they wanted, which was money, and I got what I wanted. And there was no intermediary inside there. So that's when it became real to me. And so it was just, from that point on, I'm telling you, 2022, I dove 100% into Bitcoin.
Yeah, and this is so when Bukele announced in what was it?
It was May 2021, I want to say.
Yeah, it became official in September.
In September, correct.
So where were you when he announced it? Were you already sort of like, I'm all in, or did that kind of help push you?
No, I wasn't all in at the time. I was in El Zante, and I remember hearing the announcement at Bitcoin Conference 2021, I guess it was, and I was like, wow, this is incredible. And I was really proud of it, because it's El Salvador being at the forefront, and my story goes back to, in Toronto, being Salvadoran, even within the Latino community, was always looked down upon. You weren't proud to be Salvadoran, because the first thing they would associate with you is you're a gang member, MS-13, 18 gang, whatever. And so even within the Latino community, it was like, oh yeah, you're Salvadoran, like whatever. There's no history, there's no culture. It's just, it's a bad culture. And so I just remember growing up and not really not that I wasn't proud of where I was from, but I was shy telling people of where I was from. And then here comes Bukele, and here I am learning about Bitcoin, and I'm like, this is it. Financial freedom, financial literacy. This is where Salvadoran people have the choice to make to set themselves apart from everybody else. Because again, it's a choice. You have to decide to want to be into Bitcoin. You don't have to be if you don't want to be, but it's a choice. And so I'm super excited. I think it's a big risk, but also with big risk comes big reward. I'm excited. They announced the date, September 7th, 2021, and I'm looking forward to that date. I leave to go back to Canada, actually, to just sort everything out, and then just haven't been back since. So sort everything out. I arrived back to El Salvador I would say October of 2021, and then haven't been back since. And just been diving deeper and deeper into what Bitcoin is, what its properties are, and also how to educate more Salvadorans on how to use it. Because, Bukele making it law, it was great, because now there's no one stopping you, which is what some of the other governments are doing, like China, ban Bitcoin.
Honduras just passed that crazy law, yeah.
Correct. So I'm proud of the fact that as Salvadorans, we now have the choice and the freedom to be able to choose it if this is what we decide to do. And I think that is something that as Salvadorans we be proud of, but also for me, I take it as a responsibility, So it's been, I remember that day, and I remember meeting people like John from My First Bitcoin, who came to El Salvador because of that announcement. And from that day, honestly, it feels like every day there's more and more Bitcoiners coming to El Salvador. From that moment, I've seen it. I've seen it happening. Like, I've been living it. And just all these smart, intellectual people with good ethics, good morals, hardworking, proof of work people coming here and putting that effort to, as Stacy says, it is make El Salvador the place we want it to be.
Yeah.
And that's what everybody's focusing on. And so that's what I've put my focus on. And that's why I started the Bitcoin hardware store.
Yeah, so let's get into that. I mean, you bring up such a great point before we get into the specifics of the hardware store. Like the Bitcoiners that I'm seeing come down here, like everybody really wants to contribute and make things better. And like making money is like secondary. Like, yeah, we want to make some money where we bought Bitcoin, but it's not like the crypto people that just want to get some NFT and buy a Lamborghini or whatever. Like everybody here is like, how do we contribute to El Salvador and the Bitcoin community globally? But like this being the epicenter, and this is setting the the roadmap for other countries to do this. And it's really like you say, I've met so many just like really sharp, really interesting people who were like bringing at the Bitcoin Beach meetup on Friday, Chimbera, and there was a bunch of people there, of course, and he asked me to speak and some other people, and then guys were coming up talking to me. This guy, it's really a cool idea about changing voting and and just like, stuff I don't even like consider, but you're like, yeah, let's do it. Because I think one of the things that get people into Bitcoin is we all sort of realize things are broken financially, politically, socially, whatever. And, maybe we debate on this, that, and the other thing, right, left, whatever. But we all agree Bitcoin can solve like almost, if not all of these problems. And so it is attracting all of these people who are like, man, and I don't come from the finance world. I come from the entertainment industry, but I'm just like, there's similar gatekeepers and corruption and censorship in Hollywood that didn't used to be that, and it's like, I want to do more. I want to contribute. I want to help. So and when you meet other people in that headspace, it is really exciting. Like you say, the expat, I'm a surfer. I've been to all these different places. I meet all these, expat communities kind of are similar in certain instances, but then the Bitcoin expat community is like a different thing in a really cool way.
Yeah. Going back to the point, I think the incentive structure has been skewed incorrectly. Mm-hmm. And so it makes people do things that are not maybe aligned with, not aligned with at least the way that I think. And so with the Bitcoin community, like going and learning about, I'm going to give a huge shout out to what John and the My First Bitcoin team have done. Learning about what money is. I think that's that incentive structure and what fiat currency is. When you realize what its weaknesses are, or, it's the game is not broken. The game was meant to be that way.
It's broken for us.
It's broken for us.
It's working perfectly for the ruling elites.
Correct. That's how it was meant to be. Mm-hmm. And so you learn about money, and then here comes this tool. So first you need to learn about money, the incentive structure, how that's worked since, the 1970s, let's say, after the dollar was no longer backed by gold. And then here comes this thing, Bitcoin, and here are its characteristics, here are its properties. This is what it can do. And it pretty much fills in all the weaknesses, all the holes. So now you have people who are wanting to, who see the problem, know how to solve it, and are just coming down here into the land of the place where, thanks to, to the president, we're able to actually try these things out. We're able to find solutions to these problems. Now, it's not going to have its road bumps. We're going to have road bumps along the way, but they're not going to stop you. They're not going to gatekeep you like they do in other places. And I think that's very important, where I feel supported, that I am going to be, if I have the right incentive structure, then there's going to be a group of people that are going to support you, that believe in you and want you to succeed.
Yeah. Whereas
in other places, I never felt that, right? And I think that's common.
Well, it's the competitive thing of like, and that, like you say, it creates an environment where you might have to like bail on your own values of like, I need to make a bunch of money. If it screws you over, hey, sorry, man.
Yeah, I'm watching out for myself.
I'm sorry, I got to do this. And that's like a horrible place to live, where it's like, no, this way I want to benefit. We both benefit together and everyone benefits. Isn't that the best way to do anything? Yeah. Like, which I think is why when you come down here and you see everyone's like positive and hopeful, and when you come from like Canada or the US or whatever, and especially now, the US is really like, I talked to my friends back there, and they're just like, oh, blah, 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 blah. It's like gnarly. And here everyone's like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go for it. Let's go. I mean, you go to these, and again, those Bitcoin meetups in this country and I've been to meetups in LA and other cities, and it's cool. And it's cool to connect with your Bitcoin community wherever you are. And if you don't have a Bitcoin meetup, set one up. But here it's another level because, and again, there was on Friday, and I've been to that Bitcoin Beach one several times. It's a really cool location, and I see some familiar faces. And there's a couple people brand spanking new, don't know much about Bitcoin, and they're orange pill, the orange light, and they're just like, "This country's amazing," and you're like, "Yeah, dude." Which I think has kind of helped part of the motivation. Like you say, there's nobody stopping, blocking you, going, there's not all this like interference. Yeah. So then, okay, back to like your timeline. You've had this epiphany. Bukele makes the law that you're like, all right, I'm in. You sell everything. You come down here from Canada. Then how did you get to what you're doing now, the Bitcoin hardware store? Like, how did you get from like October of 21 to the store just opened up like a month ago? So you're talking about a little over 2 years. Yeah. What was that journey? When did you go like, this is what I'm doing? Was there a process?
Yeah, it was, learning about Bitcoin. And so let's go pre-2021, where because it's just a financial tool, I'm using all these exchanges, right? And I'm trading Bitcoin or I'm buying it, but I'm not self-custodying it because, again, I'm learning about the properties of Bitcoin, the privacy aspect, the final settlement aspect of it. But the self-custody aspect didn't really come to me until, I'd say, 2021, 2022, when I have these other Bitcoiners around me and they're nailing down that importance. Like, hey, man, this is super important. My first Bitcoin being a perfect example of it, where their whole 10-week diploma program is Bitcoin, but at the end, when you do that exam, it's all about self-custody, right? Because when you have that Bitcoin, when you self-custody it, you are free to do with it what you wish. And it's yours. No one can stop you. It's a P2P, value system. So I can give it to anybody. I can trade it for whatever I want, and no one can stop you. And so that, to me, was the moment where I was like, okay, I haven't self-custodied anything. So let me figure this out. Let me ask the people around me who are here to help. And there's so many resources here in El Salvador, so many people that are willing to help with that. And it's great, but everyone's willing to help in little pieces, because that's the thing about Bitcoin is there's so many people that come from so many different aspects of life. You could be a Bitcoiner, you're a surfer, you're in entertainment, right? You can be a Bitcoiner and you're into agriculture. Mm-hmm. You can be a Bitcoiner and you're into health and fitness. So there's all these Bitcoiners who have taken their own journey, but their main focus is not to educate people on self-custody. They just preach the gospel, right? So I'm going down my little rabbit hole, and I like to say I'm a PhD at YouTube University, where I just self-teach myself. Go down the rabbit hole, watch YouTube, and see what's out there so that I can learn. So I'm going down this rabbit hole, learning, BTC sessions, Andreas Antonopoulos, just all these different resources, and I'm realizing that here in El Salvador there is a problem. And the problem is getting electronics here into the country, importing things into the country. And so I'm pretty resourceful. I like to think I'm pretty resourceful. And I'm having a hard time, getting a wallet, getting the right type of wallet, getting the right type of equipment. So as I'm figuring things out, I'm like, well, there's lots of Bitcoiners here, and it seems like nobody's figured this out yet. I'm figuring it out for myself, and I feel that the way that I can help this community out is by doing that, figuring it out, going down, doing all the hard work, so that I can have this available for people here. And that's kind of where the idea really came from. If I was having trouble, well, I want to solve this issue, and then I want to make it easier for people, because we can't make that a barrier to entry, getting things into the country.
I just got to interject. That is such the Bitcoin mindset. This is what I love about Bitcoiners. I'm having this problem. How do I make it better for everybody else? And that is such a pervasive mentality. And it's why the Bitcoin space is so enticing to me, as I love that sort of problem solving. How do we fix the problem?
Yeah.
Like, Bitcoiners don't sit around and bitch. They go, how do we fix it? They don't sit around and bitch about it. They get it done. And that's such a cool thing. But I wanted to,
It was the people closest to me.
Right.
I saw everybody working, everybody doing the hard work in their field, and orange peeling people in their field. And so as and again, a lot of these expats coming from different places. So if you're in Canada, you can pick up a wallet, no problem. Logistics there are quite easy. Same thing as in the United States. But here in El Salvador, where Bitcoin is legal tender, I was having some issues. And so I was like, this doesn't sit right with me, because if I'm having this problem, then other people might be as well. And especially with the Spanish speakers. So the idea was, let me solve this problem and let me whoever's looking for help, I need to have a place where people can come, ask questions, feel comfortable, no dumb questions, right? You come in here and we're going to help you out as much as we can. I'm going to help you out.
That's a critical thing too. And for the people watching the show who are very knowledgeable about Bitcoin, I think we all have to remember when we were like, wait, what?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the key, is like, no dumb questions. I needed to have it explained to me. Like, I had to watch these videos that I think Bitcoin.com's YouTube channel that were like, for a 5-year-old. I mean, dude, really, I needed that. Like, if a horsey has 1 Bitcoin, then, like, I needed it told to me that way.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a tech guy. I'm not a finance guy.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's great. That your store, when people come in, no dumb questions. Like, you might even want to put a sign up there that says, there's no dumb questions, ask away. So, because I think some people, and again, you see it like at a conference, like Adopting Bitcoin, where you can tell somebody brought their friend and they're just kind of like, I don't want to say anything stupid. Like, I don't want to get made fun of. It's like, no, you're safe here, man. You're totally safe here, because we all were in that boat.
I still make the mistake sometimes where I'm just talking and I'll be like, yeah, your seed phrase. I mean, your passphrase. Oh, I mean, your BIP 39. I'm like, oh, hold on. Let me pause for a second here. Because it's just like the people who are coming, the expats who are coming, the Bitcoiners who are coming and trying to learn how to speak Spanish. You're never going to get it if you don't immerse yourself fully into it.
Right.
It's going to be, it's a learning curve, but you need to immerse yourself in it and you need to feel comfortable. And so I just want to make it easy for people to understand the simple concepts of self-custody. Understand Lightning, because it's what we use here in El Salvador, teach them the difference. And what I learned as well, being in the Bitcoin community, is that there's no one way to use Bitcoin.
Right.
There's many different ways that you can use it it depends on your lifestyle, depends on where you live. There's so many different factors. And so I'm here just trying to help Salvadorans, whether it's just accept remittances via Strike, accept remittances via Chivo, or they want to start actually saving money, going into self-custody, or they just want to accept, if I'm a business and all I want to do is accept Bitcoin because I'm deciding to use fiat, you're free to do whatever you want with it, but use this tool because we're the first country. We are lucky enough to be able to use this thing. So that's the purpose of the hardware store, is to help anybody who's looking to get help. Come in, ask any question that you want. If we're able to help you with it, we will. If not, we'll guide you in the right direction to find someone who can help you out with it. Because that's the thing. The Bitcoiners that I asked were so excited to teach me about Bitcoin, so excited to teach me about self-custody that's contagious. So I'd be doing a disservice by not doing the store, because, Adopting Bitcoin 2022 was the one. That was my first Bitcoin conference that I'd ever been to. And I just remember everyone being so receptive. We were in a down market that year. Like, it was bad. But I remember everyone being so receptive, everyone being so exciting. Seed Signer coming in and teaching people about things, self-custody. I was just like, wow, this is incredible. These people are here not knowing how to speak Spanish, but trying to speak Spanish, doing a workshop for everyone. And they're doing it just because they want to, And so I wanted to do my part. And I just felt like it was my responsibility to do it for the Salvadoran people, because, I do, when I see a Salvadoran person, I see my grandmother, I see my father, my sister. And so I just want them, if they decide that this is what they want to get involved in, then I want them to have a place where they can feel comfortable coming in, asking whatever question they need to, and just confident. Because ultimately, confidence breeds, I don't know what the saying is, but just help them out. Make it seem like, just make them comfortable with the whole process.
Yeah, it was. I mean, when I popped into your store, it was really cool, just because just to give everybody a sense of the journey. So I've been like in the space for like 5 years, but 4 years pretty solidly, learning about it, understanding it, learning the difference between Bitcoin and crypto. But just to show you how, so the audience gets like how complex it is. It was last year where I learned that I thought your Bitcoin like physically lived on your cold wallet, like a file on a thumb drive. And I was at a Bitcoin meetup in LA and they're like, no, those are just keys. That's why the seed phrase is way more important than the actual wallet itself. And I was like, oh man. So like when I came into your store 2 weeks ago and with that sort of relatively new information, and I was like, we're talking about multi-sig, which is multi-signature for the audience. And that's a little more complex, especially I think that seems like it's more for if you have big amounts of Bitcoin, if you just have 10% or 20% of a Bitcoin, but if you have 5, 10, 100, whatever. And you were explaining to me which of the different wallets were good for what I was trying to do. And then the other thing that's cool, and again, if you're in El Zonte, go into his store, you have a way to go to recover Bitcoin, to go through that process on each one of these wallets to see which one is like, because again, like you said, some of it just comes down to a personal taste preference or what your personal financial situation is or what you're doing with your Bitcoin. Are you moving it? Are you trading it? Do you just want to hodl it? And that was like, man, the hands-on. Because the first time I got a wallet, I was like, this is terrifying. I'm going to screw this up. You're just going to send Bitcoin out in the wind and it's going to be gone. And you're just like, there's no customer service line that's going to recover it. So that's kind of intimidating. But and now it's not that intimidating for me, but the recovery, just walk through punching in that word, the words. And I was like, oh man, it was so cool. And it can, again, there's so many aspects of Bitcoin that can be daunting, but when you just get in there, get your feet wet, start physically putting your hands on a device and playing around with it. Mm-hmm. So that's what's really cool about the Bitcoin hardware store. Are there plans to spread more of these stores out around the country? Or I don't want to get ahead of you.
We've only been open for a month.
I know.
Right?
I don't want
I think today is a month actually, and we're closed again. So that's interesting. But it's started off with El Zonte, me and my co-founder Jamie Robinson. And it's funny because the reason that I felt so comfortable starting the store was because he was the person who I would ask all my questions to. I was like, hey Jamie, I have a question. Can you clear this up for me? And yeah, of course, here we go. He's been in Bitcoin for a lot longer than I have. And so that confidence is the same confidence that I want to share with people. And so you come into the store, you play around with the different tools, you're able to see what you feel confident with, and you're able to practice as much as you want in there. I'm not going to kick you out, especially if we're talking about Bitcoin. There's no way that I'm kicking you out of there. And my girlfriend might get a little mad at me for that because I don't show up at home sometimes, but I want people to come in, test out the products, because most of these products people only see online.
Yeah.
They've never even touched a hardware wallet.
You can't physically touch them.
Correct.
My wallet I got online, my Trezor, it's there. So when are you going to get to play with it unless you come into your store?
And it's a big investment if you're just starting out as well. People ask me, what's the best wallet that I can get? And my answer to them has now been the one that you can afford right now, because you want to start practicing. There's nothing wrong with upgrading your wallet system as you go, like your strategy and what kind of wallets you're using. And when you came in, as if you bought a certain type of wallet and then you don't feel safe with it anymore, then you have something like a multi-sig that can help you, be more secure in what you got. And you're practicing these things. So there's no wrong. I mean, there may be one wrong answer, but you don't want to limit yourself. You want to practice. You want to feel comfortable. Ultimately, the point is you want to feel comfortable with whatever it is that you buy. Because if you, by any chance, lose your wallet, like you said, you lose your hardware or your hardware breaks, you need to feel comfortable being able to restore what it is that you have. That is the most important part of it. Once you feel comfortable restoring it, you're growing as you go. You start learning more things. You start learning about adding a passphrase to it, setting up different dummy wallets, doing air gap transactions, doing multi-signature. So that knowledge base grows, but everybody starts somewhere. And sometimes you just need to play around with it to see what you like, so you're not so intimidated by it anymore. And so that's really what we're trying to do at the store, almost like an Apple store.
Yeah.
You come in, you play with it, you use it. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Do you like it, but you still want to go home and check out some YouTube tutorials before you pick it up? We even, for example, with the seed signer, we even rent the seed signer out so that you can go home, you can play with it, because that one's really cool, where you can just, as soon as you unplug it, the memory erases, doesn't store your seed phrase, and then you plug it back in, you can generate a new wallet, and you can practice. So we'll even rent out that seed signer to you so that you can just play around with it while you're figuring out if this is the right tool for you. So there's different options and so many different projects trying to solve different issues. Ultimately, they all work very similar. Sure. Again, it's your 12 or 24 word seed phrase, right? And then you want to add some security to it, you can add a passphrase to it. So
you can also too, this is the thing I'm learning, that I learned last year, and you have these products in your store. There's where you can create your own seed phrase. That's because some people feel like, well, if this company is giving me a seed phrase, then that could be a hackable entry.
Sure. Yeah.
So explain some of these, like you have the dice and all, which is really fascinating. Like just the layers of security that you can add to this, which is significant as the Bitcoin price goes up. In the next, if Bitcoin goes to $1 million, there's going to be a bunch of new millionaires in the world.
Yeah.
And then billionaires and maybe even trillionaires, depending on, like Michael Saylor will be a trillionaire. So explain how that creating your own seed phrase and the different things and products that you guys have.
Of course. So to start off, I think the most important thing for us was to use brands with a great reputation, brands that fit the Bitcoin ethos. So that was most important to us. And me, myself, the way that I guard my stuff, or the paranoid person that I can be, I wanted to make sure that this lived, we had good standards at the store. And so right now we have 4 different brands of hardware wallets. We have the Blockstream Jade, which I love recommending to people as a starter. Very easy to use, very intuitive. And then it also integrates Liquid Network, layer 2 for those that are not familiar with it. Then we have the Seed Signer. The Seed Signer is a free and open source project. And it's fantastic because you build it yourself with off-the-shelf parts. And the Seed Signer operating system, you download it off GitHub, and it's a fantastic system. They've been here to El Salvador, just like Blockstream, huge supporters of what's happening here in El Salvador. So we felt super comfortable. They're so open to helping you out with answering any questions. And again, that's where I got the motivation to start the store. Is you have these developers who are doing this on their free time, not getting paid to do any of this, and they're just doing it to support the ecosystem. So Seed Signer is a great project. We have CoinKite cold cards, and they are, super high security, like with the most paranoid Bitcoiner in mind, and the Passport Foundation. And so we have 4 great hardware wallets at the store for all different types of levels. But the most important part is that they have a great reputation. You can generate your own seed phrase with certain ones of them. So that's why we have the entropy dice. So you can roll your own entropy, although that's pretty technical. And there's a lot of, it's important that when you're using and you're generating your seed phrase via dice rolls, that you're doing a minimum of 50 dice rolls for your 12 words, 100 dice rolls for your 24 words. It's math. The way that algorithm comes out to, if you don't do the minimum 50 dice rolls, then you're actually making your wallet less safe. Every dice roll that you do less, it's less and less safe. Wow. So those are things, entropy just being, entropy being something that we explain. Like people ask, what is entropy? And it's just trying to create total randomness, which is why you have the dice, right? You throw the dice, you throw 50 dice, and the probability of you rolling those 50 dice in that exact same order, from, if I'm to be correct, has about 36 zeros after that number. So I don't know what that number is. It's too big for me to grasp. But
so then is like each number a letter assigned to each number?
It's like a binary. It's like a binary code, right? So you roll the dice. You roll the 50 if you're doing 12 words. And after you roll the 50, it gives you like this checksum, and then you have all your words. You write down the words, and that's your wallet.
Okay.
Right. So again, it can get a little complicated, and it's not for everybody, because you have to understand how important it is that you're doing at least a minimum of 50 dice rolls.
Yeah.
If you're not doing that, then you're putting your wallet and your funds at risk. So I don't really start people off that way.
Right.
You know, if you're using something like a cold card or a blockstream Jade, then it just has a random number generator that creates your wallet for you. Mm-hmm. And again, these are trustworthy companies, so you don't have to worry about anything. Right. You don't have to worry about your seed phrase being stored somewhere in the cloud. It's a random number generator, and it creates your wallet that way. So again, depends on if you want to roll your own dice because you're that technical and you really want to go down the rabbit hole, then that's there for you. If you just want to make it as easy as possible, then you just press next until you get to your 12 words, and you know that you're safe. You're safe doing so. And we try to teach people about the best practices. You know, you are going to do this offline, no cameras in the room, no microphones in the room. You want to make sure that obviously you're alone. That, you know, we don't allow people to actually generate let's call them real seed phrases in the store. You have to do this by yourself in private, understand the importance of the seed phrase. You lose the seed phrase, you've lost your funds. Right. You lose this hardware wallet, it's okay. You can just go buy another one. There's no problem. So we really want people to understand the importance of the 12 or 24 words, keeping them a secret. Storing them somewhere that you're not going to lose as well. That's also important, right? And making sure that people feel comfortable with the restoring process, because you don't want to come down to that moment where your wallet does break or you do lose it, and now you're struggling, and now you don't know what to do. Mm-hmm. That's what we want to kind of really nail down, is having people understand the importance of that and making them feel comfortable with restoring that wallet. Like you lose it, like it's okay. I'll go pick up another one, no problem. Or you're traveling from one place to the next and you don't want to carry your wallet with you. Right? All right, cool. Then I'll travel, and then I'll go buy these off-the-shelf parts, create my own seed signer, and there we go. I have access to my funds again. No problem whatsoever. Or you do lose your wallet, and then you want to go online real quick onto a hot wallet and then send it back to cold storage again. Like, there's so many different ways to do it, right? So we want people to come in, and we want to hash out ideas as well. We want to people who are knowledgeable about, Bitcoin, who've had it for a really long time, self-custody. We want to continue hashing out. I love when people come into the store have way more knowledge than I do, and then I'm the one asking the questions. I'm like, okay, well then how would you do this?
Greatest.
Yeah, it's absolutely. I feel so privileged of being able to sit at the store and have Bitcoiners coming in, people who are new, people who have been there for a while, who have been in Bitcoin for a while, and just hashing out ideas and talking to them about how whatever project you want to do, El Salvador is the place that you're going to be able to do it.
Straight up.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing I love. Like I always say, like, in my friend circle, I'm probably the most knowledgeable about Bitcoin in that circle, but here I'm not.
Yeah.
And that's cool. That means there's way more for me to learn. And I love getting more and more knowledgeable about it, because then that helps me spread the gospel and bring up adoption. So we got a couple minutes left here. Let me ask you, since you said, come to El Salvador, it's pretty awesome. What are the things you're seeing that you're like most excited about here in El Salvador and with Bitcoin in general?
Oh man, it's all the people. And I say this because originally when I left Canada, my plan was to travel Latin America. I speak Spanish. I've traveled before, but going to a new country when you don't speak the language, which I don't know how some of you guys do it. I think you're so brave. I found that very difficult. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to Latin America. I can speak Spanish. I can at least get by. And so the plan wasn't to stay in El Salvador, but I'm meeting all these people with great projects. And so I'm like, man, honestly, like, I don't see more upside. As someone in finance, you're always looking for, let's name someone like Warren Buffett.
Sure.
And you're looking for value. You're looking for that upside. And I think El Salvador is that upside. Right now, there's nowhere in the world, at least to my knowledge, that has the upside that El Salvador has. We've been through so much as a country, and now you have all these people that, like you said, are way smarter than I am, have way more knowledge, more experience than I do. And they're choosing here out of all places. People that have never been to this country are coming here to start something and to do something that aligns with my values. Like it was a no-brainer. It was a no-brainer at all. And so I can't wait to see what El Salvador looks like in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, where I think people will be surprised when they arrive in San Salvador and they look around, they're like, huh, this is not what I expected. You know, it's off the beaten path. I consider El Salvador to be like a litmus test. Litmus test? The ones who are here and exploring it are the ones who deserve to be here. And they're coming here seeing that there's so much upside to what's going on here in El Salvador. And I think that's what's going to propel El Salvador to the future is the people who are here, the projects that are here, the projects that are choosing this place. I mean, the incentive structure is there for anybody who has great ideas and feels like they're being constrained by where they're at. This is the place to be. And I don't doubt it at all. When you have all these people who have traveled all over the world and they're telling you the same thing, like there's just something special about El Salvador. Now, I am biased, you know, this is where I'm from. So maybe I have this rainbow haze or whatever, just happiness, orange, let's call it the orange haze right in front of me. But I think for me, it was an easy decision and I can't wait to be a part of it. I think that's the biggest thing is I can't wait to be a part of it, to help propel the people here, help propel the country into being the place that we want it to be. I mean, I know it sounds cliche, but you know, I'm just taking what Stacey said, but I really do believe that. I think it's the people that make El Salvador such a great place to be. And I have no doubt in the back of my mind that there's nowhere else I'd rather be right now.
It's so, I mean, the people are a huge part of it, you know, and as somebody who prior to Bukele saying he's going to make it legal tender, this wasn't.
Could you put it on the map? Could you find it on the map?
No, I knew it was like down there kind of near Costa Rica because I've been to Costa Rica to surf. I had some buddies that went to Nicaragua to surf and I was like, all right, cool. I think it's down there, you know, and I just kind of had that, isn't it pretty dangerous? Like that's all you heard. And then you come down here and everyone is so nice. And I think part of the sort of, again, like my Spanish is not great. It's getting better. It's beautiful. I started studying it. When I knew I was coming for the first time, I was like, bam, I got on Duolingo every day. And I was just like, I'm studying this. So I just was like, I'm doing this. And I live in California where there's a lot of Latinos and there's, you know, a fair amount of Spanish speaking happening, but obviously not like here. And then coming down here and I noticed, you know, when I first had dinner with Max and Stacy, they were talking about they lived in Berlin when the wall came down. And they're like, it feels like that. The wall came down and East Berlin is like opening up and people are like, whoa, what's this? You know, like, and new businesses poured into there. And now Berlin is this artistic hotspot. And, I was like, oh man. And I think part of the reason why Salvadorians, I mean, I've never been here prior to Bukele, so I'm sure they were nice back then, but there was probably just more like with all the danger. And now there's this like, yeah, we're free, man. Like there's this sense of let's do it. Anything's possible. You know, all of the, you know, being in like the central district of San Salvador when I was here, and people are hanging out, and that never happened before. And we went to, I think it's Tazumal,
the ruin.
Mayan ruins. We went there Saturday, me and a bunch of other Bitcoiners, and it was really cool. And then we went to Santa Ana to the Catholic Church, the big, beautiful in the central. And again, it's in this similar sort of, there's this plaza and it was Saturday night and it was packed. and everyone's hanging out, eating food and families. And it's mostly Salvadorians. It wasn't like a bunch of tourists. And that's the cool thing. I've gone to some little beach towns to explore, like Los Cabanos. And it was also, I was like the only like tourist there. And I was like, this is cool that they're like going, this is like people probably, my guess was like people who live in Santa Ana, that's their beach town. And I was in Punta Roca surfing like a week or so ago, and that fish market and the boardwalk. And it was like all locals. And I'm like, this is awesome, man. Like they're just feel like the people are like reclaiming their country.
Yeah.
With obviously the people who've been living here, but then folks such as yourself who like, you're coming back, you want to give back, you want to be a part of this. And Salvadorians now are all saying, I didn't used to be proud to be Salvadorian, now I am. And that is palpable.
Yeah.
And that's part of the draw is I'm the opposite. I used to be proud to be an American. I'm not, it's just this war empire, And so those are sort of some of the intangible things that are like, people are so nice. They're the country's coming off of 4 decades of problems. So there's a lot to be fixed, but it's being fixed. Like you're seeing it. You're seeing just the roads in El Zante from when I was here in June to now, like that, just you're seeing stuff and having we had the Minister of Education on the show talking about what's happening in the schools and bringing nodes into the schools, and all the kids are getting, tablets and Bitcoin is being taught. That's the thing. When you talk about 5, 10, 20 years from now,
sure.
When this first generation of kids being schooled, just in better schools now because it's safer, but now they're being schooled on money and Bitcoin.
I had this conversation with someone that came into the store, and they were asking me, where do you see this? How do you see the Salvadorans benefiting from the law, from Bitcoin? And to me, it comes down to the world is no longer, with the existence of the internet, the creation of the internet, the world economy is now really a global economy. Mm-hmm. People now, especially after COVID, you can get a remote job, you can work from anywhere, and you can be anywhere. And so the way that I see it for Salvadorans is we are going to be, the kids, the young generation, they're going to be the ones that are going to be, people are going to come ask them to be their Bitcoin advisors, to be their Bitcoin infrastructure people, to be, to bring Bitcoin to their nation state. And that's an opportunity. So now the Salvadoran kids that were at a young age being told that they had to live within their village, couldn't leave the confines of their home because it was too dangerous. Now they're going to be the ones that these nations from all over the world are going to be looking for that Salvadoran kid from these public schools that are taking these classes with, through Node Nation, whatever it may be, where they're building their nodes. This is groundbreaking. And the young Salvadoran generation, I'm so excited for them. I'm so excited that they're going to have an opportunity that I think the parents, everybody who fought during the war, everyone who put in all that work prior to 2021, it's going to pay off. And that's what I'm most excited about here, is that these, you have all these generations. I look at my father all the time and the struggles he went through. I can't imagine what it would have been like to live through a war. And you're going to have this new generation of Salvadoran kids that are going to benefit from all that hard work that they've done. It's almost like the phoenix rising from the ashes. Yeah. We're in the land of volcanoes. And so that's an intangible, it's something about this place. It's just so beautiful, something that you can't explain unless you're down here. And so these young kids, I cannot wait to see how this turns out for them. For the ones that are interested, for the ones that actually put that effort in, they are going to be the leaders of the new world, right? They're going to be the leaders of nation states. Are going to look for them to advise them, and they're going to be building this new world based around, Bitcoin as our network.
Yeah, as Bitcoin becomes the world reserve currency,
Correct.
Which it will. I mean, as Max and Stacy say, you don't change Bitcoin, it changes you. But it's going back to your earlier point of before Bukele, you were looked down upon within the Latino community. That affects you.
Of course.
You know, when everyone's like, oh, you're one of. Conversely, as this grows and these kids start going out in the world, and they're the ones that are going to be big tech companies are going to be, oh, we got to get a Salvadorian here to help because we're going to try to make Bitcoin in Hong Kong or whatever. That's what's going to happen.
That puts such a big smile on my face. Like, yeah, it's that right there is just knowing that they're going to be looking for the Salvadoran kid. While when I was growing up, you know, that was never the case. That's what I'm most excited for
and
sure.
That, you know, in the same way that sort of like, oh, blah, we're looked down upon feeds itself. The like, oh, you're Salvadorian. You guys got that guy Bukele. You guys are awesome. That feeds this confidence that I'm just seeing of like, yeah, I'm Salvadorian. I'm very proud of this country. And because of the school system and Me Premier Bitcoin and these organizations, they're going to be the most knowledgeable people about finance, money, and Bitcoin specifically. And they're being raised to not fall for shitcoinery. Like,
it's great.
That's another purpose of this show is I did it. I've bought crypto and thought I was going to be like, we all kind of fell down that casino greed.
The incentive structure was off.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But here they've sealed it off to where it's like Bitcoin only, and it will, when this generation of these kids first start graduating, getting out in the world, getting jobs, going to universities, they're going to make this country better and they're going to spread around the world. Like when I was at the Me Premier Bitcoin meetup, I went to 2 meetups last week. They've got their curriculum in 21 languages. I was like, they put this map up and I was like, damn, that's huge.
Of course.
And that's the tip of the iceberg, 21 languages. But I'm seeing like Russian, Mandarin, you know, Farsi, and I'm like, whoa, dude, like this is.
And to say it came from here, like it's happening right in front of our eyes. It's fantastic, and so that motivates me to keep working. That motivates me to keep setting my personal bar higher. You know, I want to make sure that the information that gets across is correct so that we can all succeed in the future. You know, like you said, it's not just about take.
Yeah.
It's about give. You know, that's something that I grew up on. You treat people the way you want to be treated. You give what you want to get back. And so it just follows that incentive structure that I think is the right way for us as a society and as a human race to succeed. And so that's why, to me, that Bitcoin orange pilling moment was being here, seeing everybody around me, surrounding myself with the people that I really looked up to. And I haven't looked back since.
Well, Ronnie, it's awesome, man. It's been great to meet you and see your store and have you on the show. Really appreciate it. Tell people where they can follow you when, and again, when you come to El Salvador, Bitcoiners, you got to go to Zonte. That's like, Vatican City or whatever for Bitcoin, whatever you want to call it. And the Bitcoin hardware store is now going to be a definite must stop when you come to this country. So tell people how they can follow you, and do you ship your products or anything like that, or tell everybody.
Thanks, Graham.
Sorry, did I just I'm telling you to franchise. And you're like, dude, I've been open a month. Like, let me just hire a cleaning guy.
I appreciate it. It's been a long time coming, the project. And I've had the idea for such a long time. Thanks to my co-founder, Jamie. He's the one who really pushed me and made me feel comfortable with wanting to do this. So Bitcoin hardware store, TBHS_SV on Twitter. That's where you'll find most of us. We're also TBHS_SV on Instagram if you want to look for us there. We have our website, TBHS.SV. Right now, we're not shipping. We are doing orders here in San Salvador, and anywhere in El Salvador right now, we will make it work. We will make it happen. So if you live in San Miguel, you live in close to Berlin, shout out to Bitcoin Berlin. You're in Santa Ana. We were in Santa Ana recently at a meetup over there, in the meetup of Bitcoiners Occidente. So you want something, we're there. Ultimately, we want to be there. Like I said, we want to help those who are looking to be helped. Outside of El Salvador, that's something we'll be working on 100%, because this is, again, El Salvador right now is the focus, but ultimately it's the world. And so it's something that we'll be working on. Come visit us when you're in Zonte if you have any questions about self-custody in Bitcoin. You have any questions about Lightning? How does Lightning work? What is Lightning? How do I pay for stuff in El Zonte? Where in El Salvador can I use my Bitcoin to pay for things? Come to the Bitcoin hardware store. We'll help you figure it out. We have a whole list of projects that we'd love to support. BitDriver, the Bitcoin Farmers Market, Excellence Real Estate, anything that you're looking for that is Bitcoin related, we will make sure that you find the people that you're looking for, and making sure that you can do it in the hardest money to ever exist. So
yeah, it's awesome. Well, dude, thank you so much for taking time to come up here. And I know you're coming up from the beach. It's a little bit of a journey, but I appreciate it. And folks, this is someone you want to follow. This is something, put it on your list to come to El Salvador. Like you really need to see this up close. You really got to, we don't trust, we verify in Bitcoin, right? So come down here and verify. That's what I did. I came down here to verify. And
if I can just add that you can find us on btcmap.org. You can find us on the Blink map. You can find us on Google as well. So if you're looking exactly for where we are, for those who, if you're coming to El Zonte, we're at entrance number 2. You get off the bus or you make that turn off the highway, and we are the very first spot that you see. So it's hard to miss.
Yeah, they're right there. It's a cool store. I've been there, and they will answer any and all questions you have. And of course, support what we're doing here, folks. Like, share, subscribe. If you're watching this on my YouTube channel, please go over and subscribe to the Orange Pill YouTube channel, and vice versa. If you're watching Orange Pill, please go over to youtube.com/Graham Elwood, because we're streaming this on multiple platforms. Follow us at Orange Pill Pod, at Graham Elwood, at Max Kaiser, at Stacey Herbert. Those are all scrolling below. And, follow and if you're new to the Bitcoin space, man, go to like Ronnie said, go to, get your PhD at YouTube University. Swan Bitcoin, which is our sponsor, go to swanbitcoin.com/orangepill. Let's open up an account. You get free $10. And Swan has its own YouTube channel. They provide a lot of really good information as well. So just start learning and know if it seems like a big mountain to climb, just one step at a time, small bites. You're not going to get it all in a day or a week or a month, but just the more you watch, the more you learn, the more you'll get it, and the more you'll be orange pilled. So.
Yeah. And finally, you can email us as well. That'll go directly to me, hello@tbhs.sv. So if you want to email us, you have any questions, you don't want to make any of your questions public, like I said, no dumb questions, ask anything away. I'm sure I was in your position at some point, and I'd love to help.
Awesome. Ronnie, thank you so much, brother.
Thanks a lot, Graham. Appreciate it.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Like, share, subscribe, and we will be back on Wednesday.